Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Bumba, and today I'm doing a fun video today. So this is gonna be the story of how I got kicked out of college, which yeah, that's always fun to start off a video with. And just to be clear, this is not gonna be the story of how I dropped out of college. That was different school, different situation, kind of following this. Whole other long story. That's another story for another video, another time. Yeah, that's another mess. Anyway, though, I guess I'll start by why I'm going to get into telling this story. For starters, I mean, I think it's interesting, and most people who know me definitely ask me about it all the time. It's also definitely one of the most significant events in my life and one of the biggest turning points for me. And it's certainly the first step in the timeline, the path that's brought me to here right now. You know, I've come a long way since what happened and everything like that. And I've definitely learned like a lot from all this. And there's totally tons of things that I know other people could take away from this story. I know a lot of other people are in similar situations, or they have been, and I know firsthand it's really hard to find people to relate to you with this, and, you know, I hope I can help you with that too. I mean, after all, I did turn out fine, kinda, sorta, mostly, in the end, so you shouldn't be too nervous. If you are, I'm very sorry, but if you are in a similar situation. So overall, I'm not going to go into too much detail within this video because I definitely plan to make more videos about this situation in the future. And I mean, honestly, just to start with, this is such a long, complicated story with like so many things that played into this, so many things that happened after, and you know, it's just too much to put into one quick video right now. I plan to also make plenty of other videos in the future about tons of other different stories. I got tons of, honestly, pretty interesting stories. So I definitely can't wait to share those with you guys, too. Be sure to subscribe to keep up with those. And definitely leave a comment down below, and feel free to ask me anything. And definitely leave suggestions for more videos in the future. So, quick backstory, just to give you guys some context going into this. My name's Nick. I'm 20. It's November 2019 right now. And I just turned 20 a couple months ago, back in July. Graduated high school in the summer of 2017, and this all was going down, going into the fall of 2017 at my freshman year in college. I went to Bridgewater State University, where I was studying for a degree in finance. And this whole mess of a situation, me getting kicked out and whatnot, it all had nothing to do with my grades, which, yeah, that's kind of rough looking back to, especially because they actually were literally the best grades in my entire life. And I also had plenty of friends that I still really care about today. And overall, I was just the happiest I'd ever been in my life, honestly, going into all this, starting off college. Also, right off the bat, you probably need to know going into this that I'm a pretty hardcore stoner. Like, I smoke pretty much every day. I've been doing it for years. That didn't change at all when we got to college. Wasn't weed, though. So here we are, October 2017, couple months into my first semester of college as a freshman. Alright? Things are going awesome so far, you know. I'm smoking a ton, but, you know, getting the best grades of my entire life. Like, keeping up with all my classes, meeting all these new friends that I still have today, and everything was just going, honestly, I couldn't have asked for it to go better at the time. However, I also definitely used to love taking a good trip from time to time. Now, I could make so many videos talking about all the trips that I've had, and there's just so much that I could talk about in general with all of that. I'm not going to get into too much detail about with LSD and mushrooms or anything like that right now in this video because that's just way too much to be diving into right now. Now, I never really used to have a habit of tripping too often or doing it too much in general. It never was a habit at all, never really was like a problem or anything like that. But when I did used to decide to trip, though, it would honestly usually be pretty scary doses. Like, I would always make sure that I go kind of big when I would decide to actually, like, set aside some time to do one. I mean, I've seen some of the absolute craziest things that you could have, like, that I just, like, from all these experiences, just literal insanity that I just definitely can't all keep getting into right now. By the way, though, LSD and mushrooms, like, especially in high doses, are definitely not for everybody, and you got to do your research. So I'm not trying to condone, again, this isn't going to be a video about that anymore, but let's just get into what actually happened now. So it's October 13th, 2017. Friday the 13th. How appropriate. So me and my friends had been planning this thing like for weeks, kinda. I didn't even plan on tripping this night at all, by the way. At first, I just planned on getting hammered and smoking a bunch of blunts. But we made these plans that we were originally going to just go camping in the woods, because there was this wicked cool woodsy area behind one of the dorm halls at our campus. And it was a really cool spot to like light fire pits and just drink some beers and whatnot. So we decided that we would pitch some tents, hammocks or whatnot, and just like camp out there for a night. Fun. Why not? So earlier that day, though, while I was at lunch, one of my other friends who like also kind of mess around with the LSD and stuff like that sometimes. He hit me up out of nowhere just saying that he had like 3 extra tabs laying around or something like that he just was trying to get rid of, and he said he would sell them to me for cheap. So I thought, why not? Like, I hit up one of my other friends that day, and I was like, yo, you down to just like trip tonight? Like, screw drinking and all that or whatever? And he was just like, yeah, sure. So I was like, all right, yeah, I'll take them. It's a really good price or whatever, and it's just like, fuck it, whatever. Like, this will probably be, like, the last trip that I honestly plan on taking, like, for a while after all that. Because I had already been tripping kind of plenty, like, back at this time. So I was already kind of really preparing to, like, cool it for a while. Go figure. So me and my other friend decided we wanted to just trip that night instead anyway. And so I hit up my friend that was talking to me. And I was just like, yeah, we'll take him, whatever. So, now I usually, like, when I'm just taking, like, a normal trip to, like, just chill out, have a good time, not really be too serious about it, I usually like to just pop 2 tabs, like, just ride that out, smoke a nice blunt through it, like, listen to some music and shit like that. And so my friend had 3 tabs, laying around, so I was just like, alright, like, I'll take 2, and, you take 1. I said that to my other friend. And I remember we put them on our tongues, like, just like normal, whatever. He said that each of them was like 100 UG per tab, which is like pretty standard. I mean, usually like 100 UG is kind of like when you're talking about like measuring LSD and shit like that. 100 UG is a pretty standard like 1 tab dose. It's a pretty normal like hit. So take 2 if you want a 2-tab trip. Go figure. This stuff's like pretty normal when it comes to people who like to trip every now and then. Like, some people like to take way more than just 1 at a time. Some people space them out. Some people just stick to 1. I prefer 2. A lot of people I know prefer 2. And that's just how this went. So now I'm with like a big group of my friends, and we're walking out to the woods, and me and one of my other friends that's tripping with me out of our group, we put it on our tongues already, and we're just like walking up. It's not gonna kick in right away. And we're like setting up everything. Stuff looks good, and so everyone's just chilling. People are starting to drink, and I'm starting to roll up a blunt because I always, whenever I trip, I like to just face a whole blunt on my own middle of the trip. Like, I don't know, I'm kind of nuts. Like, it's just fun for me. Now, anyone that's into tripping knows that there's only like really two super, super important rules when you decide to take a trip. And that's set and setting. So that'd be your mindset, like how you feel, your mood, everything like that going into it. And then setting is like your literal immediate environment, like everything around you and what's going on and the vibe of the room and shit like that. That's all going to determine like how good, how bad, or like how you're feeling during your trip and like how you're going to react to the experience. Different doses, obviously, would have different set and settings kind of that you probably want to go about for you. I mean, everybody's different and everybody handles different doses. Everybody prefers different things, different environments, different everything. But basically, though, like I was planning on taking 2 tabs that night, and I knew where my set and setting was at going into this whole everything, and like I was expecting 2 tabs out of this. Now, in the past, at this time, there was one other time before where I had purposely taken 4 tabs at once, which that's going to be its own video, its whole other thing on its own. That whole trip before this one was just, yeah. Anyway, back to this one now. So I already knew what 4 tabs would feel like. And it's also super common. I mean, you can't measure LSD if you were to look at it, really. It's measured in micrograms here. It's tiny. And it's not uncommon, though, for dealers or for different people to just, like, double dip some tabs, what it's called. Like, put, like, 200 UG onto one tab as opposed to one, depending on how you buy it or where you get it or whatnot, stuff like that. So, because a lot of people like to take 2 tabs at once, so, you know, double dip. Anyway, with these tabs that I got from my other friend, he even admitted at the time that he had kind of a tolerance to it. So, like, he probably wasn't the best guess. He just kind of guessed that it was around 100 UG a tab, and he had been using it from, like, a few weekends before or whatever, and he just wanted to get rid of it. He was done with it. So, when I started, like, when I finished rolling my blunt and I started, like, smoking it or whatever, and the come up is, like, starting, you know, the start of the trip or whatnot, like, it was coming up, and I immediately knew right then and there, I'm like, this is a 4 tab come up. This is more than 2 tabs. Oh, shit. Like, I instantly kind of shit my pants, which already was not doing me any good for this trip. Because, like, I immediately was not... I know what 4 tabs feels like and what it was about to feel like, and the torture that I was about to go through in the middle of the woods with all these drunk people around me and everything. Like, I knew immediately it was going to be a nightmare and that this was not the set and setting for what was going to be happening. So that had me pretty messed up from the start, but like, you know, not much was really happening yet, so I had my shit together and nothing really bad was happening, but at this point I'm pretty nervous. I immediately told my friends, like, I was like, guys, I know this is like 4 tabs, and my other friend who was starting to come up too, he could kind of agree with me, felt like it was feeling more like 2 tabs rather than just 1, so like we both kind of established that pretty early on, and I just kind of told them it's probably best for me to just go back to my room or whatever and literally let's just, like, duct tape me to a fucking bed and just throw me in a corner and put on headphones for me and, like, give me a blindfold or something and just, like, just watch me. Like, because this is about to be pretty nuts. Obviously, though, I mean, we all just got there, and not all of them were too experienced with tripping or whatever. People were kind of just thinking like, oh, what's the worst that could happen, you know, out of this? Like, shit starts to get bad, we just pull the plug, whatever, we get out of there. And I was kind of alright enough with that. I mean, I was nervous, like I said, and I knew what I was talking about. But it was kind of reasonable for me at the time to think, like, alright, like, yeah, what's the worst that could happen? I got all these people, at least, you know, like, I'm not gonna, like, go missing or anything, right? Right? So like I said, I plan to make a totally different video explaining what I'm actually, like, experiencing throughout this trip and stuff like that. But this video, I'm gonna stick to covering, like, the highlights of what kind of went down throughout the course of the night as a result of this mishap. So already shit's getting pretty uncomfortable. Like, I'm getting wicked bugged out by everybody in the way that they're acting around me, and not that they were doing anything, excuse me, not that they were really doing anything wrong or anything like that. You know, they were just being normal, like drunk friends or anything like that. But, you know, when you're on acid, and especially 4 tabs deep like that, just out of nowhere, I mean, pretty much everything was bugging me out at this point, and I was seeing stuff that I was not comfortable with. I was feeling really sick, like I was getting a head pounding, and I was like seeing all these things that like I knew really just kind of weren't there, and things were getting really freaky. So eventually what ended up started happening was, so I started to feel really uncomfortable after a while, you know, obviously, and like time dilatation's going like crazy. Everything's feeling like a freaking like eternity for me. Like every freaking minute feels like a year, and you can't remember 5 seconds ago while you're tripping out. So I told everybody that I definitely should probably like take a walk or like go back, but they all just thought, yeah, like take a walk, you know, that's cool. So they didn't have me walk alone, obviously, but hindsight 2020. Not that I'm blaming anyone, but you know, I took a walk with my friend who was like the only other one there who was tripping with me. So, you know, the 2 idiots on LSD are now walking alone together in the woods, and yeah, not the smartest move. So a lot went down with all this, obviously, throughout the whole trip, and it was honestly a really, really traumatic experience. I mean, I cannot stress how absolutely inexplicably terrifying what I went through really is. I mean, I'm honestly really downplaying it just for the sake of telling like this story right now. But if I could really go in detail right now about what everything felt like, what I actually took away from all, like, it's absolute, just, it's nuts. So eventually, though, me and my friend are walking, and we get towards, like, the end of the woods, and we hit, like, this road. And basically, like, and I'm tripping, like, literally twice as hard as he is. And I just keep telling him, for whatever reason at the time, like, the trip keeps telling me to go in this direction or whatever like that. And, you know, like, I gotta keep going. I'm sorry. He's saying we should probably go back, and he was right, you know. But I didn't really know what was even going on at the time. I kind of forgot that we even left for a walk, and I'm wicked uncomfortable and all that. And he's tripping out too, so I don't really blame him. But basically, like, we ended up losing each other. He ended up going back, and I ended up just kept going. We kind of, like, just waved bye to each other. It was really, really stupid. And as I'm, like, walking on this road, whatever, it's, like, showing me all these crazy things. Like, I'm thinking all these crazy thoughts. Like, it's getting really uncomfortable. I'm seeing some really nuts shit. All this nuts shit just keeps happening to me. And eventually now I make it to the end of the street. And I just got to college. So I'm not really even too familiar with the area when I'm sober. Especially not on 4 tabs. So I'm at the end of the road or something, and I couldn't even tell you where I ended up to this day because I was so unfamiliar with the area at the time. But I ended up somehow in someone's backyard at some house, like, close to the campus. And so, again, not to go into too much detail, but the trip led me to knocking on their door. Complicated story behind that. But so I'm knocking on their door, and they answer, and they're obviously pretty annoyed and confused at first. But they probably just assumed I was drunk or whatever. You know, they live next to a college. They're used to this shit. But I was literally, like, peaking at this point, and I was in the middle of what you would call an ego death. Like, super complicated topic. But, basically, like, I was so far gone that I literally couldn't even know or recognize my own name. So I didn't even know who I was, where I was, what I was doing. Or I was so far gone, I didn't even understand the concept that I took a drug. Like, that's how far gone we're talking. You actually get out there when you're actually, like, tripping and shit like that. So they eventually caught on that I like really was kind of like, I mean, I wasn't causing any problems. I remember most of this, you know. I wasn't being destructive with them, and they weren't really like aggressive, but they were getting annoyed, and they started to tell that I was kind of like really just a danger to myself more so than anything else. So they called the police, and somehow, I have no idea how. This might have something to do with the fact that I literally had no ID on me. No cell phone on me, by the way. I left my phone back at the camp this whole time. So, yeah, that's another thing. But nothing to my name. And I literally did not even remember my name, so they didn't know my name. But I somehow talked to the cops, and they never arrested me. They never, nothing. All that immediately happened was they just were like, all right, we're going to, like, handcuff you, because it's protocol, and we're going to, like, put you in this ambulance and take you to the hospital. They're going to figure out what the hell's going on. So I'm in the ambulance, and lots of stuff going down, like, throughout this whole story that I'm leaving out. But, like, just to kind of get to the end now, because this is already getting kind of long. We get to the hospital, and I literally, like I was saying, I was in the middle of an ego death, so I genuinely didn't know my name. If you want, you could, like, look up other videos that talk about this concept, but I was trying to figure out where I was and who I was and what was happening to me. So I looked down at my wrist because, you know, at the hospital they give you the check-in shit, whatnot, has your information on it. And I look at it while I'm in the middle of peeking on 4Dads, and it says John Doe because I wasn't able to give him a name and I immediately read that. I was like, oh my God, like, I know what John Doe means. I'm not John Doe. What's happening? It was, I mean, it sounds funny, and I know, and it is, but, like, in this moment, it was no joke. Like, this was absolute terror. This was just torture. So scary. Anyway, though, super long story short from there, they didn't do shit for me in the hospital. They literally chained me to a bed like this. I'm not even kidding here. Like, by the legs, the arms, everything. Chained me to a bed. Didn't give me benzos, no Xanax, nothing, which would kill the trip. And they literally threw me in a corner and just said, like, wait till it wears off. And I was like, this is Anyway, that aside, though. Eventually, yeah, I stayed awake through the entire night, because if you know anything about LSD, there's no chance you're sleeping while the trip's happening. And the trip lasts about 8 to 12 hours straight. So I stayed up through the entire night at the hospital, chained to the bed, and eventually, in the morning, you know, it was wearing off, and they let me go. They, you know, patched me up, everything like that, and ran me through some paperwork, and told me what the deal was on my way out. So, the next problem that I had to run into, first of all, I obviously went missing. Like, my friends back there, when I got separated from my other friend, they have no idea that any of this has happened to me right now. They have no clue where I was. It's the next day. Like, like I said, I left my phone back at the camp, so there was no way for them to ever even get in touch with me, nothing like that. So they're discharging me from the hospital, and they tell me that the buses, for whatever reason, don't run on the weekends or at this time or whatever. So if I wanted to get back to Bridgewater State, I had to, according to them, walk in that direction about 7 miles. Thankfully, for whatever reason, the summer before this, I had trained like really hard for it's called one of those Spartan races that I did out in western Massachusetts, and that was like an 8-mile obstacle course or whatever. So like I jogged a solid like 4 or 5 of the first miles, and I had my thumb up the whole time, just like, oh my God, I gotta get back. Like, what the, you know, like they're looking for me, blah blah blah. I completely 100%, like, they had cut through all my clothes and fed me an IV, everything like that. I still had like bandages on it. I had torn up clothes. Like, my clothes were torn up too, just from what happened to me in the woods in the first place. And I looked like a literal crack addict running, jogging with my thumb up, like on the side of a fucking freeway. Almost, not like a literal highway, but like one of those, like, you know, you get what I'm saying. So like the last 2 miles, these wicked old ladies, for whatever reason, I don't know why, it was really not good judgment on their part, but they picked me up, thanked them so much, like, thank you. But they picked me up and they drove me the last 2 miles to Bridgewater State, and then I immediately just ran upstairs to my girlfriend at the time, who was like, involved in all this, and she was wondering what the hell I was. And she opened the door and like she was just shocked, like, where have you, like, I was like, ugh. And yeah, I was exhausted. I was beat at this point. I just passed out, called it a night right there, and then I woke up to the mess in the morning. So if you've been paying attention so far, you might have noticed that I didn't explicitly at all at any point in time throughout all this. I didn't get caught yet. I didn't do anything to get caught, nothing like that. I mean, I had the incident with the police or whatever, but they're not directly connected to the school like that or anything like that, whatnot. Like, everything was cool or whatnot. Like, I had no idea if anything would happen or what would come or not. I just was like, playing with it. I was nervous, obviously, that something was going to happen, but nothing was immediately thrown on my lap. But so the next day, I end up finding out that I'm under investigation now. The school sent like a letter like under my door, something like that. And so what? Long story short, what ended up happening was, in that time that I was missing before, while I was like in someone's backyard and ended up getting sent to the hospital, stuff like that. Like I said, I had my phone back at the campsite and everything like that, so everyone was looking for me. Nobody had any way of finding me. And some of our other friends, these girls, that weren't at where we were at the time, but were like keeping up with all this, like hearing about it, they ended up going to one of the RAs while I was missing, and they told them that I was missing, and they also threw into them that I was missing on 4 tabs of LSD. And that right there was like, done deal. That was what did me in. That was the smoking gun. And by the way, I completely understand where my friends were coming from at that time, and I really don't hold any of that to them this day. I mean, the God's honest truth is they were doing what they thought what was best, and I mean, I can't act like I didn't put myself in a situation to need help in the first place anyway, so that was just what had to come of it, I suppose. So in the end, I lost the investigation, and in case you're wondering what comes of your first time offense in college for any drug period that's worse than weed, so like LSD, mushrooms, coke, ketamine, I don't know what the hell you guys are shooting up in your dorms, but anything that's like, not weed, basically your first offense at most schools, and the school that I was at, would be immediately they suspended me for 2 semesters, so I had to immediately leave for the semester I was currently at. I would get no credit whatsoever for the schoolwork that I've already put in. I'd have to keep paying, too, for the rest of the semester, even though I'm getting removed, and I got to keep paying for classes that I'm not allowed to show up to. And then I was also suspended for the semester following that, and on top of all of this, I was never allowed to live in the residence halls again, or am still never allowed to even visit friends there or set foot in the residence halls ever again at Bridgewater State University. So, like, if I were to go into one of the dorms where, like, some of my friends live now or anything like that, and anyone on staff were to, like, see me or anything like that and report me, I literally could get sued for trespassing. Which, obviously, let's be honest, a lot of this is pretty damn overkill. I mean, especially first-time offense. I'm not going to, like, be shaking my fist, though, about that. Like, I've made my peace with the situation, obviously, since then. But, yeah, don't get it. If you're trying to stay in college, don't even, like, you want to do that shit? Hey, I'm not judging at all. I'm right there with you. Just try to do it at one of your boys' house that's, like, got an apartment, something just off the campus, just no one involved like that. Keep it tight. So, this was really hard on me for the time, though, obviously, because, I I just started dating my girlfriend at the time. I just started meeting all these new friends, and I literally just started college. Like, that was my freshman first semester, first few months of college, and literally first week of November I was moving out. So immediately following all of that, I moved back home with my parents, obviously, at first, and to a lot of stuff was obviously happening around and after this. A lot of stuff transpired because of this. I was obviously a wreck at the time, but immediately I just went back home and got a full-time job. Literally this same day that I found out I was getting kicked out, I got hired for a full-time job, and I was delivering pizzas basically back home, making a ton of money. By the way, pizza delivery is great money in case you're looking for a job, like, pretty much anywhere in the United States. And so I just immediately told my parents, like, look, I'm going to work full-time, like, immediately right now. I'm just going to make as much money as I humanly possibly can over these next few months and pay off all this debt, all this from everything, like, right away, so that it's all off my chest. I did it. I literally worked, like, every single day, like 6 to 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week, straight just delivering pizzas, paying my parents weekly, monthly, everything, everything, whatnot. I paid it off quick. And I don't regret that, because that's something that can really hang over your head for like a while if you don't want to address it. But then what would end up happening is this is a long story. This is going to be getting into the other video I'm going to make about why I dropped out of college. But I ended up going to another school, actually the next semester, immediately after the semester where I got kicked out. And it was at this school that things just really even went more downhill for a lot of things. Like, for me, it just, with life in general and the people in my life, like, I lost a lot of people over the span of the next, like, year, like, this past year or so, past couple years. I've dropped out of college, obviously, at this point. You know, a lot of these things led to me dropping out, and I'll get into a lot of those in future video. So that's kind of that situation. That was pretty quick, like, I'm leaving out so much, but I guess when all set was done in the end, how do I regret it? Would I go back and try to not get kicked out? I mean, God's honestly the answer to that is and it really took, like, as of more recently, like, I'm talking within the last few months, or what's gone down, especially in the last year or so. It's really taken more recently, but I really have genuinely accepted what kind of went down in the past, and I really have learned a lot from this. Like, I changed a lot about who I am, the way I behave, and a lot about the way that I was acting at the time. I changed for now, and all this would have literally been impossible if I didn't get kicked out of college. Like, not if I didn't just have the trip, not if any of that other stuff happened, whatever. If I didn't get removed from that college at that time and thrown into the other mess of a situation that I was thrown into with my life, I genuinely would not be nearly as satisfied with myself or as happy as I've been able to come out on the other side of this. Like, I have learned so many valuable life lessons from this experience that I've literally noticed people go their entire adult lives never fully learning for themselves. And I genuinely can say now that I am grateful for all of that that's happened to me. And if I could go back in time, I would make sure that I got kicked out. And that was not easy for me to say for a long time before making this video, of course. But I genuinely believe that now. And I don't want anyone else that's going through a similar situation to think that that's something that has to define them, or that that's something that they're stuck in now forever. Like, if you're watching this video and, I don't know, you're having a rough day or just shit in general is going on for you like this, you know, I've literally been there. Like, I've watched videos like this, like you are right now, and in my shitty situation, at my pizza job, at my everything else, you know, and I understand, like, how it feels to be you. I really am in a place now where all that is just nothing. It's all just in the past, and I feel fantastic and better than I ever did before any of this was ever a problem in my life. And it was ugly getting to this point. Things got worse for me after this, and things were really, really rough after, and it had to get worse. But, like, in the end of all this, if things are going to keep getting worse for you or anything like that, just know really, truly, in the end, like, you can, if you choose to, come out better than you ever even started, like I have now. And, like, definitely don't give up on that as a possibility. So, how am I doing now? Honestly, like I was just saying, I feel better than ever and more comfortable with myself than ever. And I'm in a much, much happier situation right now than I've ever been in my life, honestly, before. Like, these days, my life's been starting to feel better than they even did when I first was a freshman at college. And this has all been building up from a lot of the mess that the last few years has been for me. So I'm in a really good situation right now where I live on my own, and I'm only 20 years old too, so that's like awesome. I literally have my own apartment. I have a pretty nice place too in general, all things considered, and I don't work too much. I'm pretty satisfied with my situation, and yeah, so don't let moments like that in your life kind of just hold you back and make you think that that's all that you are, because I honestly have no shame, like, sitting here right now telling you about all this stuff, and I seriously was ashamed for a while immediately after all this, and I guess, like, I'm here to tell you right now, you really don't gotta feel ashamed, and you don't gotta let other people tell you you're worthless when most people really aren't even going to take the time in the first place to try to understand you. So if you give up right away and just trying to feel like you need to be understood, and you'll stop making things worse for yourself, and you'll immediately take the first few steps to, like, turning your shit back to where you want it to be. So definitely don't hold yourself back because you think you messed up too hard in the past, because you never, ever, ever did. Thank you guys so much for watching, though. Sorry that if this was all kind of just rambly. This is actually my first commentary video, and I plan on making plenty more of these, like I said, for the future. And definitely leave a comment down below what you think, any questions you have. Definitely leave suggestions for future videos like this, and I'll always be sure to keep up. Don't forget to subscribe. And definitely be sure to check out my Twitch channel, twitch.tv/nbumba. And I pretty much stream whenever I'm recording. So if you guys want to just hop in, talk in the chat, stuff like that, go check it out. Links should be in the description, as always. And yeah, I'm leaving a lot out from this story. But if you guys want to hear more, let me know. Have a great day, guys, and I'll talk to you later.